Hello, welcome and welcome back to a new Unreal Engine video. It has been a while, but we have Unreal Engine 5.5 to play around with. So how are we going to play around with it? Well, we're just going to create a simple dialogue system. Really simple here. So just to get you up and running, prototyping, doing things like that. So we're in a basic third-person project, and we have this folder, dialogue. So this is where we're going to keep our system, basically. And so what we have a chat character, which is going to hold our dialogue component. We will have a data asset, which is going to hold all of our dialogues. We will have our primary data asset, which is going to hold a dialog entry, and then the dialog entry, which is going to be basically our chat. We are going to have two widgets. One's the dialog display box, one's button for your choices. Pretty self-explanatory here on what we have. So let's start off with the dialog entry. So the dialog entry will have a text of dialogue, so that's what the person's going to chat with. You'll have your sound, you'll have an animation montage that you play. We don't have any, I didn't put any examples here, but this is how you'd fire them, and you can fire them wherever you want, so you can customize this however you like. We'll have a map of the next dialog options, which is going to be an integer map with a text. So the integer is going to be the next option, and then this is going to be the button text, basically. And so with that, we're going to use that in the primary data asset here. So we'll create a primary data asset, and then this will be an array of dialog entries. And then we can just leave this empty, so it'll be like that. That'll be the primary data asset. Now, for the dialog component here, which is going to be like the meat and potatoes of all of our stuff, it's just a component with one function, really. And the function is chat, and that's just going to be it. And we have a couple of variables here. So we have a dialog widget class, which is going to hold our the main dialog widget here. So we can just pop that right on screen. We'll have the dialog database, which is our primary data asset that we then just plug into the regular data asset here. And then we'll have a dialog widget reference, just in case, or if you want that for any reason. And so what we're going to do is basically with this component, we'll have this function that chat, and this will just create the widget on screen using your third-person controller here. So that's what that's going to be. This is just me, your player controller, and that will create the dialog boxes. We'll save that reference. Yeah, I don't know if you actually need this reference or not, but it's here. We'll add it to the viewport. We'll set the game mode input UI only, and then we'll show the mouse cursor. So we'll just put the dialog on screen. That's what this chat is doing inside the component. And of course, this component will live on this chat character. So the chat character has nothing in it. I just copied the third person character, deleted everything, and then added the component here. And so you add that component, set it up with the dialogue that you want this character to use. So that's what this is. The variables here, you'll notice that some of them are hidden and everything. They are set to private, read only, and things like that, because you don't really need to change them. So the only thing that we really are concerned about is our dialogue configuration, basically here. So what does that look like? So I have it open here. So we'll see that we have a couple of entries here. And the couple of entries, you'll notice 0 is hello. And then the next dialog options, you see 1, 2. So these will be the indexes for the next ones here. So 1 will say goodbye, and that'll go here. And basically what's going to happen when we're calculating the dialog is that this will just say goodbye, and then it'll close it out because it won't have any more options, basically. The options will be empty, so therefore there won't be any choices. So you can do the same thing with like something for a question, like who are you? We'll go to jump 2, we'll jump to index 2, and then it'll say I'm you, of course. And then I say I'm out of here, and we'll jump back to 1, index 1. And then since it'll have no entries, everything will close down. So that's what the primary data asset is going to work. It's kind of like a simple state machine. So let's see how the component uses, or not the component, but the widget that we create from this dialog component, because you'll see when we create this widget, it has this dialog component, and we're just passing it itself. And so when we create the widget here, the dialog widget, we have on the construct here, we will do a create dialog with a base index of 0. So 0 will be like your starting entry for your dialog. So however you want to set up your character for an intro, hey, how are you type of thing. But you'll notice we have create dialog, and this create dialog is fairly complicated, but it should be fairly easy to understand from just like a core look. And so just to give you an idea, we just have a basic canvas panel size box that holds things like this. We've got a vertical box to just hold everything. We've got the dialog text here, which is a variable that's just going to be like what the player or what the character is saying. And then there's the choices box here, which is another vertical box that's going to hold all of our buttons. And so like they have various properties, you can customize it, but it's fairly simple. It's fairly simple here as far as the design goes. So here for the create dialog, what we're going to do is we're going to take that dialog component that we pass in on the construction, because this component is going to have our database. So we'll have that. We'll have some text, which is going to be binded to the designer text up here, or the text box here. So this is going to have a binding on it. You can see here it's got a binding, so we'll use that, which is just a return. It would just promote it to a variable. It's very simple. We'll have the dialog choice class. This is the button class that we will be constructing. The choices box, which is that vertical box that's going to hold all of our text, and then we have just the this. I think that was when you create it as a variable. So when we create the dialog, we'll go through the component, we'll grab the dialog database, and we'll grab the dialogs, and we'll get whatever index we're passing it into. And so first we'll want to clear out the children, because just in case we're swapping dialogs, when we're changing dialogs, we want to remove the buttons and things like that. So we'll break it. We'll grab the keys from the next dialog. So if it's like, if it's not empty, we'll continue. But if it is empty, this is where you can just go and just close down the widget. Pretty simple stuff. So if we have entries here, so we'll just set this text, which is binded, so it'll automatically update. We'll have this macro that I run. It's KVP next dialog, basically means key value paired next dialog. I don't know if Unreal Engine has a loop that is a key value pair, but it just looks like this. So it just goes through the key, loops through all the keys, grabs all the keys, and then just returns the element here, and then returns the value. So it's basically the key and the value. And that will loop through, because that'll be a loop value. We'll get here. The array index is that should say key. I don't know why it didn't update. It should say key, but anyways, so we'll create the dialog choice widget, and that dialog choice widget, which is the button that we have, we'll pass it in as we'll send it a parent, which is going to be our dialog box here. We will send it the index, and we'll send it the button text. And so the dialog choice here, and then of course we'll add it to that as a child to the vertical box. Now the dialog choice is fairly simple. All it will do is it'll hold that reference to that parent, it'll hold the reference to the next slot, and it will just hold the text. This has a binding on it for the text, and it is just a simple button text. That's about it. It's just a button and text. So what we do is when we click on it, we will go ahead and create that index. We'll pass it to the next index. We'll take the parent and we'll create the dialog from the next index. And that's pretty much it. The button clicks basically move us through the state machine. So in the character now, in the third person character, in the actual player character, we'll see we can go into the blueprints, third person character, and we have an E key press. This just does the line trace from the character for pawns, ignoring self, gets the hit actor, checks for the dialogue component if it's valid. It'll just call that chat method with the player controller here. And that's pretty much it. So if we see it in action now, we can go ahead and we can just grab our player here. We can run up to our character, press E. We can say, hello, goodbye, who are you? And it'll say, I'm you, of course. I'm out of here. And then it'll close down the box. Now we can do it again. Goodbye. And then it just leaves. Now, if you want to see just an example of how we can add, let's say, more chats, for example, we can just go into the dialog simple. Let's add another chat onto this one, I guess. I'm you, of course. And then we'll add another dialog. Let's say 3. Let's say 3 here. And we'll say, oh, really? And then we'll add a new one here. We'll take index 3. And he'll say, yes, really. And then we'll add a dialog option here. And we'll be like, okay. And then we'll jump back to 1, which is basically the goodbye option. So it's empty. It'll basically be the goodbye option. And now, so we save that up. We jump into the character. We go ahead here. We go ahead and ask, who are you? I'm you, of course. Oh, really? Yes, really. Okay. And then that's it. That's your simple dialogue. And of course, it has the sounds, has the animation montage. So as you go through with the creation of the dialogue, you can easily you can do the montage here. You can do the anime montage. You can play a sound, or you could really do whatever you like, honestly. And so I hope you found that enjoyable. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.